You wake up one morning and try to book a flight. You enter your credit card information. Payment approved, but when you try to complete the booking, the airline system declines. Error message. Contact customer service. You call. After 20 minutes on hold, a representative tells you your account has been flagged for review. No explanation, no appeals process, no timeline for resolution, just a flag. And until that flag is cleared, you cannot book flights with this airline or the three other major carriers that share the same screening database. You think it's a mistake, a glitch in the system, a case of mistaken identity. So you try to book a hotel for next month. Same thing, payment works. Reservation doesn't. Account flagged, no explanation. You try to get a car loan. Application denied, not because of bad credit. Your credit score is 730. Denied because of a risk assessment flag that the bank won't explain and won't remove. You check your bank account, still there. Your credit cards still work. Your mortgage payment processes normally. But certain services are now unavailable to you, not explicitly banned, just quietly restricted. Welcome to stage 3 of social credit implementation, the soft ban. And you didn't even know you were being scored. Most people think social credit is a Chinese thing, a dystopian authoritarian system that could never happen in the West. We have freedom, we have rights, we have legal protections against arbitrary government restrictions. All of that is technically true, which is why Western social credit doesn't look like Chinese social credit. It doesn't come with a visible score that you can check. It doesn't have explicit categories of restricted behavior. It doesn't announce itself as social credit. It just quietly implements the same functionality under different names. ESG scores, risk assessments, terms of service violations, misinformation flags, hate speech designations. Each one sounds reasonable in isolation. Each one targets behavior that seems obviously bad, but together they create a comprehensive system of behavioral control that rivals anything China has built. And the system is accelerating. To understand where we are, you need to understand the full trajectory, because social credit implementation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in 6 predictable stages. Each stage builds on the last. Each stage seems reasonable until you see the pattern. And each stage makes the next stage inevitable. China completed all 6 stages over 2 decades. The West is moving faster. We're currently in stage 3. And if you understand what stages 4 through 6 look like, you'll realize why the time to resist is now. Before the soft ban becomes a hard ban, before the restrictions become comprehensive, before opting out becomes impossible. But first, let's define what social credit actually is, because the term gets thrown around without precision. Social credit is a system where your access to economic and social opportunities is determined by your behavior as assessed by a centralized scoring mechanism, not your behavior in the specific transaction, your general behavior across all domains of life, your political views, your social associations, your consumption patterns, your speech, your compliance with official narratives, all of it monitored, all of it scored, all of it used to determine what you're allowed to do. The Chinese system is the most well-known example, launched nationally in 20 after years of pilot programs. Every Chinese citizen has a social credit score. The score starts at 1,000. Good behavior increases it. Bad behavior decreases it. What constitutes good and bad behavior? Whatever the party decides. Paying bills on time increases your score. Jaywalking decreases it. Donating to approved charities increases it. Posting unapproved content online decreases it. Associating with low-score individuals decreases your score through contamination. The score determines everything. High score, you can book high-speed rail tickets, get loans at favorable rates. Your children can attend good schools. You can rent apartments without deposits. Travel internationally. Low score, you're banned from flights, banned from high-speed trains. Your internet speed gets throttled. You can't book hotels. Your children are restricted from attending private schools. You appear on public blacklists displayed on billboards and scrolling LED screens. Your face is shown with your score and your offenses. Public shaming as enforcement. And it works because the cost of noncompliance is exclusion from modern life. This sounds horrifying to Western ears, obviously authoritarian, obviously oppressive, obviously something that could never happen here. Except it is happening here. Just with better branding, the Chinese call it social credit. We call it risk management, content moderation, safety protocols, responsible business practices. The terminology changes, the function doesn't. Let me walk you through the 6 stages, not as prediction, as documentation, because each stage is already underway. Understanding which stage we're in tells you how much time remains to protect yourself. Stage 1 is data aggregation. This is where the infrastructure for comprehensive monitoring gets built. Every transaction tracked, every communication recorded, every movement logged, every association mapped. The data exists in silos initially. Your bank has your financial data. Your phone company has your communications. Your social media platforms have your posts and connections. Your employer has your work history. Your government has your tax records and legal history. But the silos aren't connected yet. Stage 1 is building the databases that will eventually be merged. The West completed Stage 1 years ago. Every credit card purchase tracked, every website visit logged, every email scanned, every phone call recorded by telecom providers. Accessible to authorities with minimal legal barriers. Your car tracks your location, your phone tracks your movements, your smart home devices record your conversations. Alexa is always listening. Google knows your search history, Facebook knows your political views and your social network. The data exists, comprehensive, detailed, permanent. Stage 1 is complete. Stage 2 is data integration. This is where the silos start merging, not through one central government database that everyone can see and fear, through private sector coordination, data sharing agreements between corporations, fusion centers that aggregate information from multiple sources, public-private partnerships where tech companies provide data to government agencies. Know your customer regulations requiring financial institutions to monitor and report suspicious activity. Anti-money laundering provisions requiring detailed transaction monitoring, all framed as security measures, compliance requirements, corporate responsibility. But the function is data integration, building comprehensive profiles that span every domain of your life. The West is deep into Stage 2. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance shares surveillance data between the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Tech companies routinely share user data with law enforcement. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network receives millions of suspicious activity reports annually from banks. Credit bureaus aggregate financial behavior. Data brokers compile and sell dossiers on hundreds of millions of people. Your profile exists. It's comprehensive. It includes your political views, scraped from social media, your purchasing patterns from retailers, your travel history from airlines and hotels, your associations from phone records and social networks. You are known completely. The integration is operational. Stage 3 is selective enforcement. This is the stage where the scoring starts affecting outcomes. Not universally, not transparently, selectively. Certain behaviors start triggering restrictions, not explicit bans, soft restrictions, denied services, closed accounts, flagged profiles, always with plausible deniability, never with clear explanation. You're told it's a terms of service violation, a risk assessment, a business decision. You're never told you've been scored and your score is too low, but the outcome is identical. We are in stage 3 right now, and the evidence is everywhere once you start looking. Let me show you. Financial debanking. Over the past 5 years, banks have closed accounts for customers based on political views or associations, not for illegal activity, for legal but disfavored behavior. Donated to the wrong political campaign, account closed. Attended a protest the government didn't like, account frozen. Expressed controversial opinions online, banking relationship terminated. This happened to Canadian truckers in 22. Happened to UK politician Nigel Farage in 2023. Happens daily to smaller accounts that don't make headlines. The bank claims it's a business decision based on risk assessment, but the pattern is clear. Think wrongly, lose banking access. Platform bans. Social media companies deplatforming users not for illegal content, but for misinformation or terms of service violations. The definitions of misinformation and violations constantly expanding to cover more speech. Say something that contradicts official narratives, banned. Share information that's factually correct but politically inconvenient, banned. Associate with banned individuals, shadow banned. Your content doesn't appear in searches, doesn't show in feeds, doesn't reach audiences. You're not explicitly silenced, just made invisible. The soft ban, travel restrictions, no-fly lists expanding beyond terror suspects to include political protesters and ideological dissidents. The list is secret. The criteria are classified. The appeals process is nearly impossible. One day you can fly, the next day you're flagged. No explanation, no recourse, just exclusion. Employment screening, background check companies, including social media screening, employers rejecting candidates based on political posts or controversial associations. Not because the views affect job performance, because the views represent reputational risk. Express the wrong opinion, become unemployable, not by law, by corporate policy, by risk management, by the soft ban, payment processing, PayPal, Stripe, and other payment processors closing accounts for users and organizations deemed problematic, adult content creators, gun retailers, politically controversial figures, medical freedom advocates, cryptocurrency services, anyone operating in spaces the processors consider risky, not illegal, just risky. The account closes, the funds freeze, your business dies. No court order needed, just a terms of service violation, the soft ban. Insurance denial. Life insurance companies using social media analysis and purchasing data to assess risk. Express skepticism about vaccines. Higher premiums posted about risky activities. Denied coverage associated with people flagged for risky behavior. Your application is declined. The actuarial tables now include your political views and social associations. This is social credit functioning under the name of risk management. This is stage 3. The restrictions are real. The scoring is happening, but it's still selective. Most people haven't been flagged yet. The system is still targeting the outliers, the politically active, the publicly controversial, the people who challenge narratives. If you stay quiet, if you don't post controversial opinions, if you don't donate to flagged causes, if you don't associate with targeted individuals, you're probably fine for now.
But stage 3 normalizes the infrastructure, tests the enforcement mechanisms, establishes precedents, and prepares the ground for stage 4. Stage 4 is comprehensive scoring. This
is where the selective system becomes universal, where everyone has a score even if you can't see it, where every action affects that score, where the algorithm monitors everything and adjusts your access accordingly. China reached stage 4 in 20. The West is moving toward it now. The infrastructure exists. The data integration is complete. The selective enforcement has proven the system works. The next step is universalization. What does stage 4 look like in practice? Imagine your credit score, but for behavior instead of financial history. You can't check it directly, but it affects everything. Apply for a loan. The bank's algorithm checks not just your credit, but your behavioral score. Flag posts, higher interest rate, attendance at unapproved protests, loan declined. Association with low score individuals? Risk assessment negative. You're never told about the score, just given reasons that sound like normal business decisions. Try to rent an apartment. The landlord runs a screening that includes behavioral assessment, your social media analyzed by AI, your purchase history evaluated, your political donations reviewed. The algorithm produces a risk score. High risk, application denied, not because of bad credit or criminal history, because of legal activities the algorithm deems problematic. You're not told this is why. You're told there were more qualified applicants. Book a hotel. The system flags your profile based on past behavior. Attended a political rally 6 months ago that was later designated a security concern. Your reservation is declined, not explicitly because of the rally, because the risk assessment determined you represent potential liability. The hotel can't explain the exact reasoning. The algorithm is proprietary. You just know you can't book. The soft ban operating automatically. Apply for a job. The employer uses AI screening tools that analyze not just your resume, but your entire digital footprint. The algorithm identifies red flags, controversial associations, unapproved opinions, participation in disfavored movements. The system scores you. Low score? Your application never reaches a human. Rejected by algorithm. You receive a generic email thanking you for your interest. You never know why. Never know that you were scored. Never know that your legal speech and legal associations made you unhireable. Stage 4 is automated exclusion. The scoring is universal. The monitoring is continuous. The enforcement is algorithmic. No malice. No conspiracy, just code executing policy. And the policy is to restrict access for people whose behavior deviates from approved norms, not illegal behavior, unapproved behavior. The distinction matters because illegal behavior requires proof and trial. Unapproved behavior just requires a flag in the database. And once flagged, your life becomes harder. Not impossible, just harder, more expensive, more restricted, until compliance seems easier than resistance. Stage 5 is explicit categorization. This is where the pretense ends, where the government or a public-private partnership openly announces the scoring system, gives it a name, explains the criteria, makes it official. China did this in 20. The social credit system wasn't a secret anymore. It was policy, openly discussed, publicly implemented. The scores were visible, the categories were defined, the restrictions were codified. No more plausible deniability, just explicit behavioral control. The West hasn't reached stage 5 yet, but the infrastructure is ready. And the justification is being prepared. Climate crisis, public health emergency, domestic terrorism threat, social cohesion. Whatever the crisis, it will justify the explicit system. And when the system is announced, it won't be called social credit. It will be called a citizenship responsibility score or a community contribution index, or a social trust rating. The name will sound positive, voluntary even, but the function will be identical: comprehensive behavioral monitoring, algorithmic scoring, tiered access based on compliance. The rollout will be gradual. Start with incentives. High score citizens get benefits, discounts, priority services, bonus points for good behavior. Make the system attractive. Make people want to participate. Then make it mandatory for certain services. Want to use public transportation? Need a minimum score? Want to attend large gatherings? Score requirement. Want government services? Your score determines priority. The voluntary system becomes mandatory through practical necessity. You can opt out. You just can't function in society if you do. Stage 6 is full enforcement. This is where low scores mean effective exile from modern life. You can't board planes or trains, can't book hotels, can't get loans, can't rent housing, can't be employed in any professional capacity, can't access health care except emergency services, can't send your children to good schools, can't start businesses, can't participate in the economy except at the most basic level. Your face appears on public blacklists. Your score is visible to anyone who looks you up. Your associations contaminate the scores of others, so people avoid you. You become a pariah, not by law, by algorithm, by score, by enforcement that happens automatically through systems you can't appeal and can't escape. China is in stage 6. Millions of Chinese citizens banned from flights. Millions more banned from high-speed rail. Hundreds of thousands on public blacklists. Their crimes? Criticism of the government, association with dissidents, religious practice the state disapproves of, speech that contradicts official narratives. All legal, all sufficient for score reduction, all sufficient for exclusion. The West is not in stage 6, not yet. But the trajectory is clear. Stage 1 complete, stage 2 complete, stage 3 underway, stage 4 being prepared. The infrastructure exists for the full implementation. The only question is how fast the remaining stages roll out. And the answer depends on crisis, because every stage transition happens during a crisis, real or manufactured, genuine or exaggerated. The crisis creates the justification for the next level of control. COVID-19 accelerated the timeline dramatically. Vaccine passports, contact tracing apps, capacity restrictions enforced through digital verification, QR codes required for entry to restaurants, gyms, offices, venues. Your phone became your permission slip. No app, no entry. That was stage 3 enforcement. And it worked. Most people complied because the alternative was exclusion. And in that compliance, the infrastructure was normalized, the precedent was set, the mechanism was tested, and it proved effective. The next crisis will push us further, could be climate emergency, carbon tracking, personal carbon allowances enforced through digital currency. Exceed your allowance, your purchases get declined. Not illegal to want more, just impossible to acquire more. Stage 4 enforcement through environmental policy could be public health emergency, new pandemic, new restrictions, new compliance requirements, digital health passports upgraded to include more data, more restrictions, more enforcement. Stage 4 implementation under health authority could be domestic terrorism crisis, attack blamed on domestic extremists, sweeping new monitoring powers, requirement for digital identity to access online spaces. Say the wrong thing, lose internet access. Stage 4 disguised as security. The specific crisis doesn't matter. What matters is understanding that crises are the mechanism through which each stage is implemented. And crises are always available, always justified,
always sufficient to suspend normal protections and implement emergency measures, and emergency measures never fully expire. They just become the new normal. So what do you do? If we're in stage 3 heading towards stage 4, if the infrastructure for comprehensive social credit already exists, if the trajectory is clear, what's your move? First, understand your vulnerabilities. What aspects of your life depend on centralized systems that could flag and restrict you? Banking, employment, travel, housing, education, healthcare. Make a list. For each, identify alternatives. Local credit unions instead of major banks, self-employment instead of corporate jobs, regional travel instead of international flights, private housing instead of corporate rentals. Each alternative reduces your exposure to centralized systems that can ban you. Second, reduce your digital footprint. Every post, every like, every comment, every search, all of it data that feeds the scoring algorithms. Not saying you should self-censor on important issues, but understand that everything is recorded, everything is scored, everything has consequences. Be strategic, high conviction speech on important matters, silence on trivial matters that create risk
without benefit. Third, diversify across platforms and jurisdictions. Don't keep all your money in one bank. Don't use one email provider for everything important. Don't build your entire life on platforms that can ban you with no recourse. Spread risk so that when one account gets flagged, you're not completely cut off. Fourth, build relationships outside digital systems, face-to-face networks, local communities, people you can trust who aren't algorithmically connected to you, because in stage 4 and beyond, your digital associations will affect your score. But relationships that exist outside digital tracking remain invisible to the algorithm. Fifth, develop skills and assets that function outside centralized systems. Trade skills, local services, physical goods, assets that have value regardless of what the algorithm says about you. Because when your score tanks, when the soft ban becomes a hard ban, you need ways to create and exchange value that don't require permission from centralized platforms. Sixth, and this is crucial, resist incremental normalization. Every new requirement that seems reasonable in isolation, every new verification, every new monitoring system, every new compliance demand, each one moves us closer to comprehensive social credit. And each one that gets accepted makes the next one easier to implement. Resistance at stage 3 is possible. Resistance at stage 6 is nearly impossible. The time to push back is before the system is complete. Social credit is not a future threat. It's a current reality operating under different names. The infrastructure exists. The data integration is complete. The selective enforcement is underway. The trajectory toward comprehensive scoring is clear, and the Western implementation will be more sophisticated than China's, more automated, more difficult to perceive, more impossible to resist once fully deployed. You are being scored right now based on your purchases, your posts, your associations, your movements, your consumption, your compliance. The score affects your access. Not universally yet, but selectively. And the selective system is expanding. More behaviors flagged, more people restricted, more services requiring approval from algorithms you can't see and can't challenge. Stage 3 is the soft ban. You can still mostly function, but certain doors are closing, certain opportunities are disappearing. Certain restrictions are appearing without explanation. Stage 4 is comprehensive scoring. Everyone monitored, everyone restricted based on algorithmic assessment of behavior. Stage 5 is explicit announcement.
the system revealed and justified. Stage 6 is full enforcement, social death for the non-compliant. We're in stage 3. The window to prepare is now, before the soft ban becomes hard, before the restrictions become comprehensive, before opting out becomes impossible. You've been shown the trajectory, you've been given the warning. What you do with it determines
whether you maintain autonomy or become subject to algorithmic control of every aspect of your life. The score exists, the system is operational, the trajectory is clear, and it's coming faster than you think. Now let's talk about the most insidious aspect of social credit that nobody discusses, the contamination effect. In the Chinese system, this is explicit. Your score isn't just based on your behavior, it's based on the behavior of people you associate with. If your friend has a low score, your score decreases simply from the association. If your business partner gets flagged, you get flagged. The algorithm treats relationships as vectors of risk transmission, and the contamination spreads through your entire social network. This creates a powerful enforcement mechanism that requires government agents, no police, no direct coercion, just incentives. Because if associating with flagged individuals hurts your score, you have a personal incentive to cut them off, to avoid them, to publicly distance yourself. The system turns everyone into enforcers, not through malice, through self-preservation. You're not betraying your friend by refusing to associate with them. You're protecting your family, your livelihood, your future. The system makes cruelty seem like responsibility. The Western implementation of this is already operational, just not called contamination. It's called reputation risk. Platforming controversial figures, associating with extremists, being adjacent to problematic content. The language changes, but the mechanism is identical. Associate with someone who gets deplatformed, and the algorithm flags you for review. Retweet someone who later gets banned, and your account gets shadow restricted. Employ someone who posts controversial opinions, and your company faces boycott campaigns and advertiser pressure. This happened to Joe Rogan in 2032. Spotify faced massive pressure to remove his podcast, not because of illegal content, because of controversial guests, because of conversations that challenged approved narratives. The campaign wasn't directed at Rogan alone. It targeted Spotify, their advertisers, their employees, their investors. The contamination spread through the entire business relationship. Spotify didn't fully cave, but they removed episodes, added content warnings, made Rogan harder to discover through search. The soft ban through contamination pressure. It happened to banks that served controversial clients. Pressure campaigns targeting the financial institutions, threatening reputation damage, advertiser boycotts, regulatory scrutiny. The banks calculated risk, decided the client wasn't worth the contamination, closed the accounts, not because of illegal activity, because of association with controversy. The contamination effect, operating through corporate risk management. It's happening to universities. Professors who invite controversial speakers face campaigns to get them fired, not for what the professor said. For platforming someone with unapproved views, the contamination from the association is treated as sufficient grounds for punishment. Students demand the professor be removed. The university pressures the department. The professor is marginalized, denied tenure, pushed out. The contamination enforced through institutional pressure. This is stage 3 contamination, still selective, still targeting the highly visible, but establishing precedent, normalizing the concept that association is grounds for restriction. building the infrastructure for stage 4 contamination, where the algorithm tracks every connection and adjusts scores automatically based on your network. Imagine stage 4 contamination in practice. You have a friend from college, good person, solid values, but they posted something controversial, got flagged. Their score dropped. You don't know this. You can't see their score. But the algorithm knows, and the algorithm knows you're connected, knows you interact regularly, knows you're close friends. So your score takes a small hit. Contamination, penalty. Not enough to restrict you immediately, but enough to lower your tier, to make you slightly more risky, to trigger slightly more scrutiny. Your friend, now realizing they're restricted from certain services, reaches out to others in their network, asks for help, tries to organize, tries to understand what happened. The algorithm flags this as potential coordination by a low-score individual. Everyone they contact gets contamination points. Including you, your score drops further. Now you're flagged for secondary review. Your credit application gets delayed. Your job application gets screened more thoroughly. You don't know why. You just know things are harder, and you don't connect it to your friendship with someone who posted wrongly months ago. Eventually, you learn your friend is flagged. Maybe they tell you. Maybe you figure it out. And you face a choice. Continue the association and accept the contamination penalties, or distance yourself and watch your score recover. The system doesn't force you to betray your friend. It just makes betrayal the rational choice, the economically sensible choice, the path of least resistance. And one by one, flagged individuals find themselves isolated, not by government order, by algorithmic incentives that make association costly. This is how stage 4 enforcement scales without requiring massive state security apparatus. The algorithm does the monitoring, the contamination does the enforcement, and regular people do the exclusion, not because they're cruel, because the system makes cruelty rational. Let me give you another dimension that's already operational but not recognized as social credit. Insurance, health insurance, life insurance, auto insurance, homeowners insurance. Every type of insurance is moving toward behavioral assessment, not just traditional risk factors like age and medical history, behavioral risk factors like social media activity, purchasing patterns, and digital footprint. Life insurance companies are buying social media data from data brokers, scanning your posts for risk indicators, mentions of risky activities, evidence of dangerous hobbies, discussions of health concerns. The AI analyzes your posts, produces a risk score, high risk, higher premiums, or denied coverage. You're never told your Instagram posts affected your insurance application. You're told your risk profile doesn't meet their underwriting criteria. The social credit score operating as insurance assessment. Health insurance companies are partnering with wearable device manufacturers. Your smartwatch tracks your activity, your sleep, your heart rate, shares that data with the insurance company. Don't exercise enough, your premiums increase. Don't sleep enough. Higher risk category, the monitoring is continuous, the assessment is automatic. The consequences are financial. This is sold as wellness incentives. Walk more, pay less. But the flip side is punishment for non-compliance. Don't walk enough, pay more. The system scores your behavior and adjusts your cost of living accordingly. Auto insurance companies are installing telematics devices, monitoring your driving, speed, acceleration, braking, hours driven, routes taken. The device uploads data constantly. The company scores your driving behavior, safe driver discount. Except it's not really a discount, it's the normal rate. Everyone else pays penalties, scored and charged based on real-time monitoring. Don't like it? Don't drive, or pay uninsured rates that make driving impossible. The choice becomes compliance or exclusion. This is insurance-based social credit.
your behavior monitored, your choices scored, your costs adjusted based on compliance, and it's expanding. Homeowners insurance companies using satellite imagery and AI to assess property risk, scanning your roof, checking for violations, noting landscaping, analyzing neighborhood. The assessment happens without your knowledge. Your premiums increase based on algorithmic analysis you never consented to and can appeal. The insurance industry represents stage 3 implementation across the entire economy. Every person, every property, every vehicle, all monitored, all scored, all priced based on behavioral assessment. And because it's private companies doing it, because it's framed as risk management rather than social control, because it happens through price rather than restriction, it doesn't register as social credit. But the function is identical. Now consider what happens when insurance-based scoring integrates with financial-based scoring and platform-based scoring. When the algorithm that decides your insurance rates talks to the algorithm that decides your loan approval and the algorithm that decides if your social media account gets restricted, the scores synchronize. The assessments reinforce each other. Flag in one system triggers review in another system. The
Restrictions cascade. You get deplatformed for controversial speech. The algorithm flags you as reputational risk. Your insurance company's risk assessment pulls the flag. Your premiums increase. Your bank's lending algorithm sees both the deplatforming and the insurance increase, interprets both as risk indicators. Your credit line gets reduced. Your employer's background check service sees the deplatforming and the reduced credit, decides your liability. Your contract isn't renewed. Your income drops. Your credit utilization increases. Your credit score drops. Your insurance premiums increase again. The spiral reinforces itself. One flag triggering a cascade across integrated systems. This is stage 4, and the integration is being built right now. The infrastructure exists because of legitimate business needs. Risk assessment, fraud prevention, credit evaluation, all reasonable, all necessary for functioning markets. But the same infrastructure enables comprehensive behavioral control. Because once the monitoring is universal, once the scoring is automated, once the systems integrate, the only limiting factor is policy. What behaviors get flagged? What scores trigger restrictions? What thresholds determine access? And policy can change instantly. Terms of service update, a new regulatory framework, an emergency declaration. The infrastructure is permanent. The policy is flexible, and once stage 4 is operational, the policy will expand to cover more behaviors, more restrictions, more enforcement. Let me show you how this is being normalized through language. Social credit sounds oppressive. Algorithmic risk assessment sounds technical, but they describe identical systems. Behavioral scoring sounds dystopian. ESG compliance sounds responsible. Identity verification sounds reasonable. Continuous monitoring sounds necessary for security. The system is being built using language that obscures its function. And most people, hearing the sanitized terms, don't realize they're accepting the infrastructure for comprehensive social control. Environmental, social, governance scores, ESG, sold as corporate responsibility, measuring companies on climate impact, social justice metrics, governance structures. Sounds positive. But ESG scores affect access to capital. Companies with low ESG scores face higher borrowing costs, difficulty raising funds, investor pressure. This is corporate social credit.
behave according to approved metrics, or face financial penalties, and companies pass those penalties to employees and customers. Thought your job was secure? Company's ESG score dropped. Layoffs necessary to cut costs. Your personal behavior didn't matter, the corporate score did, but the effect is identical. Now ESG is expanding to individuals, personal carbon footprints, social impact scores, responsible consumption metrics, your purchases analyzed for environmental impact, your travel scored for carbon emissions, your consumption patterns evaluated
for sustainability. The data already exists. Your credit card company knows everything you buy. Your bank knows where you spend. The scoring is being developed, and once operational, it will affect your cost of living. Want a mortgage? Your carbon score affects your interest rate. High emissions? Higher rate? Want to fly? Your carbon budget determines availability. Exceed your budget, flights get restricted. The environmental crisis justifies the monitoring, the scoring, the restrictions. Social credit branded as climate responsibility. Digital identity is the final piece. Governments worldwide are rolling out digital ID systems, sold as convenience. All your credentials in one app: driver's license, passport, health records, banking information, voting registration, one identity, one app, one verification system. Sounds efficient, but digital identity is the universal key that unlocks social credit. Because once your identity is digital, once every transaction requires digital verification, once every service checks your digital ID, the scoring system can gate everything. Try to board a plane, scan your digital ID. The system checks not just your identity, but your score. Low score? Boarding denied. Try to enter a government building, scan your ID. The system checks your score, flags in your history. Access restricted. Try to open a bank account, verify through digital ID. The system checks your behavioral score. Too many flags. Application declined. The digital ID becomes the enforcement mechanism, not through explicit bans, through verification requirements that include scoring. And because verification is mandatory for accessing services, the scoring becomes mandatory. The European Union is implementing digital identity wallets, mandatory by 26. All member states, all citizens, one system. China has had digital identity integrated with social credit since 2020. India's Aadhaar system, while not explicitly social credit, provides the infrastructure. Over a billion people with biometric digital identities linked to everything from banking to food rations. The global standardization is happening, and standardization means interoperability, means scores from one system can be read by another system, means restrictions in one country can affect access in another country. The global social credit infrastructure clicking into place. So here's where we are. Stage 3, the soft ban, selective enforcement affecting visible targets. But the infrastructure for stage 4 is nearly complete. The data aggregation is done. The integration is advanced. The scoring algorithms are operational. The contamination effects are established. The insurance-based implementation is normalized. The digital identity systems are rolling out. The ESG frameworks are expanding, and the crisis justifications are being prepared. What triggers stage 4? Same as every previous stage transition. Crisis. A climate crisis requiring carbon rationing. A health crisis requiring behavioral compliance. A financial crisis requiring resource allocation. a security crisis requiring population monitoring. The specific crisis doesn't matter. What matters is that crisis enables the policy shift from selective to universal, from voluntary to mandatory, from the soft ban to comprehensive restriction. And here's what most people don't understand. Stage 4 doesn't require new technology, doesn't require new infrastructure, doesn't require new legislation. The technology exists. The infrastructure is deployed. The legislation is already passed in frameworks like national security letters, anti-money laundering requirements, emergency health powers, and terms of service agreements you've already accepted. Stage 4 is a policy switch, a configuration change, activation of capabilities already built. The question isn't whether we reach stage 4. The infrastructure guarantees it. The question is when, and whether you'll have prepared before the universal scoring goes live. Because preparing during stage 3 is possible. Preparing during stage 4 is much harder. Preparing during stage 5 is nearly impossible. And stage 6, at that point, preparation doesn't matter, only acceptance or exile. Your window is now, while the system is still selective, while you can still operate outside flagged categories, while alternatives still exist. Build those alternatives now. Financial independence, skills that can't be credentialed away. Relationships outside digital systems, assets outside monitored institutions, communities based on trust rather than transactions. These are the foundations of resilience when the comprehensive scoring goes live. The 6 stages of social credit aren't prediction, they're observation. China completed the journey. The West is following with better propaganda and more sophisticated implementation. We're in stage 3. The soft ban is operational. The infrastructure for stage 4 is complete, and the timeline to universal enforcement is shorter than most people realize. You are being scored. The soft ban is affecting the visible. The comprehensive ban is coming for everyone, and your choice is preparation or compliance, because by stage 6, there are no other options. The system exists. The trajectory is clear, and it's happening faster than you think.